2.3 billion people globally suffer from bladder issues. And that's about 33% of the global population. It's massive. And so our society has never catered for this group of people before, but that's just going to grow. When you're running a business and when you're running a consumer business where you want every single customer to feel exactly the same standard of service and love that your business is giving, those details are so important, and they are the harshest judge. Always have high standards.
Hello, and welcome to the Bay HQ, where we inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians. Hit that subscribe button if you watch this on YouTube, and leave us a 5-star review if you're watching on Apple or Spotify. Today we have with us Peony Li, the founder and CEO of Jude. They're a consumer platform dedicated to helping people live longer and healthier, starting with bladder care. How are you doing today?
Doing really well. Thank you for having me.
So we've had a nice chat before we started recording, and I learned so much about you and what you've been doing behind the scenes. But you're not from Britain originally, right? You're born and raised in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So tell us about when you're growing up. Did you ever think that one day you'd be doing what you're doing today?
Definitely not. And in fact, my parents have been in elderly care, fem care and incontinence. And they were actually the first people that imported a nappies machine into China way before Pampers did. And so I suppose 30 something years ago in China, it was like a Wild West, Wild East, let's call it. And I hated going to China. I hated just going up there, using those kind of squat toilets. So I never thought I would be following my parents' footsteps. But I always have quite a rich, inner world. I imagine quite a lot of things that could have existed but didn't exist. And but they are usually passing thoughts. But I definitely want to start a company, and that is what I have been thinking for a long time. Timing is really important, I think. So I need to answer the question. Definitely not an incontinence business. Definitely not a healthcare business. But I think I probably go back full circle after years of doing different bits and different things.
And like you said, you have done a lot of different things before starting Jude, right? And what was the first thing you did out of university?
Yeah, so I followed quite a traditional path. Finished reading economics at Cambridge. I went for M&A in oil and gas at Merrill Lynch. I think my choice of oil and gas is I thought that would be the nearest to seeing how an economy develop, because I love development economics at university, but it was just completely opposite of what I actually was looking for. But I think I learned a lot. Banking, I want to look at things that is before EBITDA, before revenue, and you only got a chance to really work on debt and financing and taxation stuff when I was in banking. So yeah, that is why I left.
You had this idea about starting, even like you said, you had a lot of imagination when you were younger.
Yeah.
Going into oil and gas almost seems like the opposit of that in some ways, right? At Merrill Lynch. What was the idea? Did you want to, was it just gaining experience, or were you thinking you weren't ready yet to become an entrepreneur? How was your mindset then?
Yeah, I think I got lost in the trenches when I was at university, because everyone was talking about the best paying jobs and the best kind of starting career, which I still think it is, because it definitely trains you to be a certain type of character when it comes to work ethics and commitment to excellence. But the reason why I chose to go into banking is perhaps the wrong one, because I was just really following what other people saying and tried to be them. But in fact, when I finally went into banking, I was probably the most the unhappiest self, because it felt like I have just watered down the flames and the fire and the hunger that I used to have, I suppose.
What did you learn from that banking experience that then did help you later on?
A massive one, that is bearing with things that you don't like doing. Yeah, I think in this era, this virtue is lost. We have to do things that we don't like to do, on a daily basis. And if you're lucky, you get to do more things that you love. But, living in this modern world, there are a few things that you just kind of have to learn how to be happy with, have to learn finding ways that's going to either automate things that you don't like to do and deal with people that are unpleasant. And so I think I learned a lot there. On this is the biggest softer side of the role. Well, the other bits would be the technical side, using Excel without a mouse is something that everyone was super proud of in banking. Training up some financial acumen, being quite logical and I think detail oriented. It's just not very sexy to talk about. It's not very visionary when it comes to details. But when you're running a business and when you're running a consumer business where you want every single customer to feel exactly the same standard of service and love that your business is giving, those details are so important, and they are the harshest judge to the labor that you're doing. So I think I really learned that from banking.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously a lot of people always gloss over the more boring yet admin bits, right? Of being an entrepreneur. And I think that was the biggest shock to me when I started my own company or started working for myself, is you think you can have so much more time once you leave your day job, but actually you have to do all this like just crappy little jobs, right? And it's hard for many people to adjust to that. And doing something like banking and having to sometimes deal with, like you said, those issues does help. But then also you became much more effective at them because of that banking experience too. But what was the trigger to leave banking?
Yeah, I remember working like a couple of consecutive weeks and I was sleeping 8 hours a week, not 8 hours a day. It was like literally that kind of meme of like you fall into bed and you jump straight back again and then wear your suit and then you go to work. And I just felt that was just not very sustainable. I think if I stay in banking for longer, like that hunger and fire is just going to be completely gone. I left in about 2 years, which is, I think at the time, like a lot earlier than what other bankers would do. The more that my colleagues are telling me that you will never get a job in finance again if you leave. Are you crazy? Why are you leaving? You have such a good job. You have such a good education. You're throwing your career away. I think the more that I hear this, the more that I know what I'm doing is right. Even I don't have a backup job. I don't have a visibility. What I'm going to do.
When people are saying you've got such a good job, were they doing that in terms of your salary, or what do they mean by you've got such a good job when you can say you're sleeping 8 hours a week? Because that doesn't sound like a great job then, right?
I think that what they meant is salary. I think what they meant is kind of career progression, prestige. Yeah, I think these are the kind of things that people hold on to in their jobs. And for me, salary and status and all of that are, I think, an important element for everyone, sanity and financial ability to pay bills. But I think I'm always chasing for purpose. Like I don't see the purpose of just doing, I don't know, 100-page deck and then just finding it in the trash next day, if you get what I mean.
When you left that job, right?
Yeah.
And you said you didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
What did you do? How did you try to figure out what to do next?
I knew a few things that I just have to pick up. Confidence is one. And then second is just making sure I have as much creativity as possible. So I gave myself a budget and like a time limit for how I explore what I want to do. And I did go to like about 50, 60 job interviews. And that was also very good learning because I learned about so many different industries. I learned about so many different people and different jobs and what really gives me energy and what didn't. And through those interviews, and I give my all to all final interviews. I went into all the final interviews, and some job that I thought excited me when I went to the final job interview, when you get to see your boss, the potential bosses and the colleagues that you're going to work with, you just suddenly feel like, I actually just don't think that's exciting anymore. And then I also went to Africa through a network, a Baobab Network, and the opportunity was to support female entrepreneurs, or actually entrepreneurs in general, in Africa, to help them with their business plan and help them to raise money for them to see through how they can build their business. And so I was working with 3 women, and they're all really awesome, wanting to facilitate the premium agricultural sector, and that focus on macadamia nuts and cashew nuts farming. They're high value products. And so how do we automate some of the processes, make it cashless, digitize it so farmers have less theft? Yeah, and so everyone wins. And so that was a fantastic experience. I gained so much confidence because I went straight into Standard Chartered Bank in Nairobi and tried to raise $200,000 for the 3 women. And yeah, now seeing them building their business, being really successful, makes me just so happy.
You mentioned there about you wanted to build up your confidence as well, and going to Africa and obviously being completely out of your normal comfort zone. Was that part of the reason you went there, to almost in a way intentionally get out of your comfort zone and test yourself?
Yeah, totally test myself and just restart the map for myself, and wanting to see those comments of like, you're never going to survive out there on your own, you would never get a finance job ever again. I think it's just stripping out status, prestige and titles and all the other things that people like put on you, and just you and yourself, and you know, of course with a network like Baobab Network, and just see what you can do. And I think from that experience, what I learned is like, I can do a lot of different things on my own if you're just willing to take that one step out of the comfort zone. And then when I went back to London, I started my own small business, which is my first business that I started. It was a motherhood community. I think at a time there was a strong calling about mothers needing to be real about postpartum issues, and it's not all rosy. And so I started with like 5,000-6,000 mothers actually in a Facebook group, and we all just have chats about what is it like, and it got really viral at the end. So I was very excited about being able to just kind of put things together with just an idea in my mind.
So with the postpartum postpartum depression side of things. What made you pick that problem in particular? Because obviously there's lots of different problems out there, but coming back from Nairobi, what was it that made it that issue that one that you really cared about?
It's a really good question. I just saw that community to be a community that I want to learn more from. And I saw how they're just not talking about it and just being alone, suffering in silence, and somehow just want to take that responsibility up to open up a platform. But what I found that community couldn't quite scale is because I didn't have that experience myself. I wasn't a mother and I'm still not a mother today. And so that is one of the sort of fit that I was lacking. And as I was going through it more and more, and when I have actually a full-time role, once I've found like a role that I really love, the passion on building that community sort of died down a little bit because it wasn't day-to-day relevant to me. And I think that is one of the experience that I've learned.
And so what was that full-time role that you then took on?
Yeah, so I actually took a 50% pay cut to work at Founders Factory. It was a startup at the time. When I walk into the office space, they were still just sticking on wallpapers and just like paving the floors. And I just felt that buzz and that energy. So it was an accelerator, incubator, building and investing in companies. I was a venture associate as I went in, and I got to see like thousands and thousands of companies, and very quickly got promoted to head of investments at Founders. I was one of the youngest manager there and just got super lucky with being able to make a lot of decisions and work with like the CMO of L'Oreal, the CFO of Viva. Yeah, it was an incredible experience.
So you said you got super lucky there, but obviously it's not just luck. You're obviously very good at what you did. What was it that you felt like you really thrived in that environment? What was it that you felt you did really well?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was thinking about it the other day because I still felt like I'm really lucky. But I think when people think A to B is done, I often just go to like G, H, whatever.
I thought you were going to say P for Peony there.
I was thinking, should I say Y? But it's like a little bit too far. So I just often go like an extra mile, I think. And I'm like often the last to leave the office because that was what I was used to in banking. But when I say last to leave the office, I was like, it was 6 p.m., if you get what I mean. I think I adopted sort of, I'm entrepreneur in my own area that I want to do, and I just want to do it well. And I want to make sure I see through to what this looks like. And I think when I say I'm super lucky is because Founders Factory, as even it was like a 60 people company, it was still evolving and changing the structure. And so I just got an opportunity to be able to showcase what I can do. Especially I didn't have skills in investments, actually, startup investments. And so I was trusted to head up a team, and I was trusted to make a lot of investments, negotiate a lot of legal terms myself. So that was like a big jump, and yeah, it was wonderful. But I think I'm kind of part lucky, part hard work. I do believe in timing and luck and all of these factors a lot.
After Founders Factory, well, obviously you're now working at Jude, but you did some else in between, right? Because you were trying to work out what is it going to do. So it's interesting because you've got, even as we've gone through this journey, right, you've done so many things that they're connected in some way, but they're also quite different to each other. So after Founders Factory, what was your thinking then? What did you decide?
Yeah, I was like, I'm ready to start a business. Now I have like more experience in my belt and I've met so many founders. Surely I can start a business. And yeah, I started an idea. Again, it's actually in the motherhood space, but it's a slightly different product that I was trying to do. I think a moment for me that I actually didn't want to do investments anymore. I didn't want to sit on the other side of the table. Like when I was an investor, I just enjoy being bathed in the sun rays of founders who are obsessed with the things that they were doing. And I just so want to be on the other side, if you get what I mean. And so I think I artificially sort of forced an idea to wanting to own something and jump on something that perhaps wasn't the best fit for myself. And so now with the benefit of hindsight, to be able to kind of say that, it was really great because, you know, when I say timing and luck, like those things are like critical components of a successful business. And I think the timing just wasn't right. I wasn't in the right mindset or right level of maturity. And so having tried to pitch that business a few times to investors, trying to sort of put a founding team together, met with quite a lot of challenges. But I think the challenges that I met and the challenges that I meet today, the very different kinds of responses internally from me. One is like, it is an opportunity. Right now is an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity. I think at a time it's like, it's difficult. Every day is difficult. And I think your body or your mind tells you, you know, what's the right direction and guides you. And after that, I believe that I need to just work in another company. After investment, after being an investor, you need to do a bit of rehab, if you get what I mean. So I went to work in an early stage company, pre-launch. They invented a pain relieving tampon to address endometriosis. And it was just fantastic fantastic idea, slightly nuts again, but I helped setting up their supply chain, their manufacturing base, help build their team up, just do a lot of different scrappy things really, and saw it through to launch. Yeah, so that was just a really cool experience seeing a founder at work close up, mistakes and lessons that I've learned from her and the rest of the team.
It's interesting to see like how vast your experience is before you even started Jude. And it's also that you've got it at all different points. But with the investment side and then working at the startup as well, how much has that affected the way that you've framed Jude itself? Because when you were obviously thinking of the idea and like you've got the family background there, did it, even when you were kind of coming up with the idea, you could obviously see in your head straight away like, oh, this is how investors would see it, or this is how I would look at this on the other side of the table. And did that help you in that journey as well? What gave you that idea like this is the right one after maybe making a mistake beforehand?
Sure. So I can tell you what I learned at every stage. So I think at Founders Factory, it was like a military training of like what buzzwords investors like to hear, what kind of business model works, what kind of deck works. I think I understood what would strike a chord, but I also understood like if I need to put 200% of my energy into a business, what would that look like? And then at Daye, what I learned is how you combined like a beautiful brand with efficacious product, which is science-backed, applying that to a very underserved group of people. And the effect that you can, it's like 1 + 1 + 1 equals like 10, That is the effect that you can give to the society and the group of people that you're serving. And so there's still one more step actually before I started Jude, which is I started a side business at the start of the pandemic, distributing about 6 million pieces of protective equipment. I think that's probably the biggest learning curve for me because that was a business where I started generating profits. It was self-funded. I was on my own from sourcing the products, remote site visits, doing regulations, logistics, which is incredibly difficult. I was calling up the CEO of DHL to be like, release my products from your warehouse because that is national emergency. And it actually worked. And I'm linking the message to everyone. Network of truck drivers so that they can send the products out to different parts of the UK for me. I got really familiar with like freight and logistics, like some quite basic parts of like what needs to be done, like lots of admin again. But that was fantastic. Like that business generated over £500,000 of revenue just within like 3-4 months. I was selling most of them at cost, recuperating my time costs. I think 2 lessons there. Like one is like you can literally do anything you want at any time in your life as long as that is something that people needed and you can secure quality products. That's it. It's actually as simple as that. A second lesson was like I got a chance to work with people owning care homes, people running distribution centers, and they're not in our generation. Like they're people in their 50s and 60s, and they were just so confident and they were so good with people and they're so knowledgeable. And what I look up to them the most is that spirit of I know who I am and I don't care about pleasing everyone anymore in my life. That really made me look forward to aging.
Yeah.
And it's such a concept that is like to contrast what our society taught us about aging. It's usually anti-aging this, use this cream, fear of aging that. And I just think that concept just needs a bit of a refresh. I think this is probably the first generation that we see people in their 50s and 60s. And there are like mums and dads, actually. We will never consider them as elderly. We just see them as older people running around, trying to like live their lives and do things and like find it hard to retire, like those are the people that we're looking at. And so our society has never catered for this group of people before, but that's just going to grow. So our perception of aging as we experience ourselves, at the same speed, similar terms to everybody. How do we reframe that? How do we start looking after our bodies so we maintain independence for longer? So that's kind of really what really sparked the idea of Jude.
Like, tell us why Jude is so important as well, right? Because as you said, it's such an underserved market, but it's a problem that affects so many people. So like for the people who don't understand or have never heard about what Jude do, can you tell us in detail, like what is that?
Yeah, sure. So as what you've described in the beginning, it's a platform empowering people to live longer, happier, healthier. We start with bladder care. So 2.3 billion people globally suffer from bladder issues. And that's about 33% of the global population. It's massive. And I'm not just talking about leaking and incontinence. I'm actually also talking about overactive bladder. If after COVID, you've been around your toilet and you need to go to the toilet more often than before. That's a starting symptom of when you're older, you just need to go to the toilet very, very often, or waking up at night and going to the toilet more than like 3-4 times. A lot of our customers probably do that like 7-8 times a night. And then prostate issues, benign prostate hyperplasia, that is a very common issue. So about 50% of men over the age of 50 have that. You can't enjoy your sex life. You always need to find a toilet, so you can't go on long car journeys or go on travel because of just this very seem like trivial, seem like a hidden issue that you can't tell anybody. So it is a massive issue. It's debilitating when it comes to quality of life. So if you go to NHS and you go to a GP, they usually tell you it's just a part of aging, accept that. Or, it's just a natural part of being women after like having children. But it's not a normal part of aging. It's not a normal part of being a woman. I think, this concept of let's sweep it under the rug and just move on, keep calm and carry on. Like, not being British myself, I definitely have something to say about this concept. Like, in a lot of things in life, we can do that, which is let it go. But when it comes to our health, I think it's so important not to. And so it's not just quality of life, but also allowing this demographic of people express their true colors and express who they are, because that's the only way that we get to learn from them. And we get to learn how the world used to work and how the world is working now. And I find that sort of link to be a bit broken, I think, within the generations. I respect my mom and my dad a lot. I respect my grandma a lot, and I learn so much from them. So there's no reason why we can't do it in this country.
So what's the progress you've made so far, and where are you aiming to get to?
Sure. So we launched in January last year. So just about a year and a bit. We served more than 15,000 happy customers. We made about more than $1 million revenue just within a year. So I would say we found product market fit really, really quickly, just because they've been waiting for decades for a solution. So just a little bit about our products. We have a clinically proven supplement. And in this industry, you either hear of a diaper or a pad produced by only 3 companies in the world, Tenor, Always, depends. So a 2.3 billion people global problem, only 3 monopolies. So you can see how lacking this issue is. But they only really focus on the reactive and the management side of things, which is like an unwanted symptom of an underlying issue with your pelvic floor and your bladder health. What we look at is treatment. It's actually improving the organs of how it works, thickening your pelvic floor muscles. And so it's quite a new area in science as well as in women's health, looking at how hormones work in your receptors in your bladder lining as well as in your pelvic floor lining. So what we're doing this year is running a clinical trial, double-blind, RCT, placebo, really advancing the science behind diet, nutrition, and this area of health. If you look at heart health, bone health, there's proven ingredients, nutrition that's going to prevent, heart problems. But in this area, anything above the knees, below the waist, it just seemed like it's an area that we never want to even look at. So that is the area that you really want to focus on. Prostates, anything that you don't want to talk about, we're already working on it. We also want to build Jude into a full stack medication. So from essentials and kind of supplementation, we also want to push out prescription medication where, similar to, I suppose, like Hims and Hers, looking at a seemingly very cool issue around erectile dysfunction and building out a platform for millennials to care for our health. Why isn't our 50, 60-year-old deserve a cool platform like that? So that is kind of the area that I'm going into, putting more science behind it, expanding to US and Europe as well. So quite a lot of plans in store.
On the business side of things as well. So obviously it started off just you, but you've since expanded, brought more people into the team.
Yeah.
And what have been some of the hurdles you've overcome so far, and what have you learned from those as well?
Yeah, I was like a one-woman team. So we raised our first round in May 2021. I've been a one-woman team from May to December 2021, so for 7 months. So burn was really low. I built out the products myself. I designed the brand with a few agencies. And there was a lot of joy in working on my own. But then there was even more joy working with a team of people. And, along that journey, I feel like a lot of founders will tell you hire the right people, you hire the wrong people. And I think for me, the biggest learning is just to have high standards. Always have high standards with the people that you want to work with the work that you're expecting out from an agency. And this world is just not going to give you more unless you ask for more.
With the scaling, so you've got, say, 15,000 customers in the first year, right? And I guess the experience you had before that with the protective equipment obviously really helped you on that as well. But even in terms of designing the products when you're by yourself, how are you able to do that? Like, was that a good outlet for your creativity to work out how to do that to improve people? What was that stage like, that ideation stage?
Sure. So we put together a community of women in their 50s and 60s, and we all have bladder issues, co-creating products with us. So it was just from real people, like venting to us and being disgruntled about what they couldn't find in the market. Our business actually started from a pads and liners business, wholesale, pivoting into supplements, pivoting into direct to consumer. So there were multiple changes that like I myself did in the business. And when I say there's joy working on my own, is because you can literally take it in every single direction that you want, that answers the customer needs the most. And I think I combined my technical skills, which is like how machine works, how a product can be combined together, how supply chain works, bring that with a bunch of amazing women who cannot stop talking about what they actually want. And so there's magic just happens when you combine the two together.
So really enjoyed conversation and learning about what Jude does. We're going to move to quick fire questions now. So the first one is, who are 3 British Asians that you'd love to shout out that you think are doing incredible work that people should be paying attention to?
I think the first two actually, would be the co-founders of Like Little Moons. Yes, I was talking to you a little bit about that, but they were siblings. They have a very similar path as me, Vivian and Howard. They basically built out a whole new category around just ice cream, a very, very crowded market, very saturated, but they really got customer love. I think they instill some sort of nostalgia in me when I was having that little delight. And then they bootstrapped the business from 0 to, I think, about like £5 million of revenue before they start taking on small angel checks. And now they have sort of part exited their business for like more than 100 million. It's really cool to see another side of the story of people that you can relate to, not raising huge amounts of VC fundings in the beginning, not really following the conventional and traditional path of like how this circle, in fact, quite a small bubble, how businesses are built, being extremely scrappy and still building up factories, hiring lots of people. So I think that is definitely going to be an inspiration for me. And especially they also have that background and know-how from their family business as well. So that I think that's definitely one. It would be like Nat Wei. He's the first Chinese lord in the UK. Mm-hmm. And he is one of the co-founding member team, I think. Team member for Teach First. And he dedicated his life in, I suppose, serving people. And the link between me and him is as I step out of university, they created this Asian community in London to be able to look at societal affairs. And we meet every month in the House of Lords and talk quite a lot about how do we set up projects to look at the gambling problems in Chinatown, because a lot of restaurant owners every night take their cash and go gamble in the casinos near Chinatown. And that's how it all come about, actually. How do we instill more, entrepreneurial spirits within this demographic of people who are highly talented, have good degrees out of university, but took a very safe option to work in finance and consulting. And I do think that gives me a lot of influence after university, because that group of people is composed of so many different diversity of backgrounds. We have a musician. We have entrepreneurs, we have people in finance, banking. We also have people that are just kind of a bit of a hustler and just do anything and everything, but are very, very good at public speaking. And so that pulled me out of my, world and bubble of economics and then banking. So I would say the fact that Nat Wei set up something like that from his own experience and serving people and wanting to have it in the next few generations, I think that was pretty great.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So next question is, if people listening right now want to reach out to you for help or guidance, what should they reach out to you about?
So I'm not a hugely extroverted person, and I would never consider myself as a highly confident person, but I am now shouting out about bladders and incontinence with literally no shame and no embarrassment at all. And I did it anyways. So I do believe confidence is a practice, is a habit. And so if anyone want to step out of their comfort zone. I think I can be quite a good guide for that. I think starting businesses and being very mindful about just combining creativity and data, making decisions in the beginning without data and then using data to do it. So I think those are my like strong suite as well.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, is there anything that you need help with right now or that Jude needs help with?
Definitely. When we talked about building teams and hiring, not being in this country myself and not being born in this country myself, like there's certain challenges around understanding working culture and also understanding like what genuinely motivates people at a workplace that get them above and beyond. I think it works for some members of the team, but it doesn't represent all members of the team. So I think in terms of hiring, I'm starting to see a coach, but if anybody have any coach recommendations and just how to be a better leader in general, like that would be a really good guide.
Enjoyed this conversation so much. So great to have you on.
Thanks.
Have you got any final words for the audience?
If you want to start a business, think laterally, like around how you can do it. There's no one set approach. You can start from scratch, bootstrapping. You don't have to raise VC money. There's so many different ways that you can do it. So give it a go and think definitely 3 times about whether that is an idea that you can go above and beyond and really lose sleep about.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us. And we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes a world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission. And you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.